Well, thank you all again for signing on with us here this morning. And as always, we like to open up with our vision and mission statement. And then, of course, Matt will open us up. Matt, our COO, will open us up for a word of prayer. But our vision is to imagine a marketplace where work and faith connect. So we at WorkFaith believe that, there shouldn't be a separation of church and state. We actually believe that those worlds, in a very positive sense, should collide. And so we get up every day as an organization figuring out more creative ways to bring the gospel back to work, if you will. In some places, it's never left, but in other cases and places, we're trying to reinstitute the gospel. And so our team strives for that on a daily basis. And our mission statement is to provide faith-based training and coaching for anyone who desires long-term employment. And I want to celebrate our team. Those of us who are here today, they have done such an amazing job over the last 4 months, pivoting, helping our organization in light of COVID-19, the racial crisis, and everything else going on in our country. This team has been absolutely magnificent. And so hats off to every one of them. I always like to celebrate them because truly I am because we are, and we are because I am for each and every one of us. So truly grateful to have the opportunity to partner and collaborate with this great tribe of individuals and leaders. So without further ado, my brother, Matt, our Chief Operating Officer, he's going to take the mantle here and pray for us and share a few organizational updates.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. So I'll open us up in prayer. Father God, Lord Jesus, we just thank you so much for this day. We praise you for this event and the purpose for it. We know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. So we look forward to how you're going to use this platform and this speaker series and Kim and Anthony's discussion. I ask you to continue to watch over the WorkFaith Connection and all that we are doing. And I ask all this in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Kim, again, we're so happy you can join us here this morning. For those of you who frequent this event often, you're going to hear some familiar information, but those of you joining for the first time, I generally give just a quick organizational snapshot, starting with some history and kind of what we're doing this day and age with COVID-19 and whatnot. So 2020 started off like any other year. Students were being trained, coached, and employed through our successful programming model. Throughout the past 14 years, approximately 80% of the students that have come through here have become gainfully employed. And they became gainfully employed within 90 days. So 2020 was starting off just the same as any other year until March happened. So March rolls around and two things were going on. So one, we were in the middle of transitioning our senior executive out and moving our new CEO in. Anthony's second week on the job, COVID-19 hit, Houston shuts down, the world shuts down. We send our staff home and we begin bracing for the impact that COVID-19 was going to have on the organization. So fast forward to May, and we're in full transition from in-person training to a complete virtual platform. The wisdom, insight, and just courage to attempt something like this was, the idea was derived by Anthony, and the team made it happen. So traditionally, we had students in the classroom, and moving into a virtual space, we had to convert all of that to a digital environment. So this included our boot camp, our career coaching, our placement services, our supplemental courses on how to keep a job once you get a job, our financial classes, our resume writing workshop, and even our practice interview sessions. The biggest change was to our boot camp, which shifted from 8 days to 5 days. But we kept all of the components from the previous model, including all of our faith components. So WorkFaith was founded on faith and Christian principles, and those will forever remain at the core of who we are, what we stand for, and what we live by. To date, we have completed 9 virtual boot camps and graduated 214 awesome students. 80% of those went on to coaching and placement services. And the great thing about shifting to this virtual space is that it provides so many different opportunities. Overnight, our reach instantly extended. anyone from anywhere can access our services and benefit from our training. We're in the process of leveraging this opportunity to expand outside of Houston and possibly Texas. Growth and expansion are definitely underway, and a lot more people are about to experience the WorkFaith connection. In the midst of all these programming enhancements, we decided to create and produce an event that we call Iwork Houston. So this event was designed to connect Houston employers with Houston job seekers, while also providing insight into the heart of WorkFaith and our operations. In addition, partners from all over Houston offer courses such as how to brand yourself, resume writing 101, dress for success, mock interviews, and so many more applicable workshops geared towards employment. We didn't just host a job fair, we created a virtual hiring expo and experience. And so the event was so successful that we are going to launch another one in 2021 and hopefully bring this event to other cities in Texas. On August 25th, 512 people logged into the system to watch our live stream event and visit our 39 gracious employers who signed up to participate. Some of those employers were MD Anderson, Academy Sports and Outdoors, Walmart, Cardinal Health, and again, so many more. In total, over 1,000 open positions were represented on that day. The hiring results are pending, but our team is in contact with the employers, and as people go to work, WorkFaith will be notified of their employment. One last thing, so every fall the community gathers at our annual By Faith Breakfast to celebrate successes, hear about our graduates, and unite in support of our shared mission. Although COVID-19 has prevented us from gathering in person this year, it hasn't prevented us from gathering virtually. So we've re-imaged our annual community gathering to bring the heart of WorkFaith connection into the homes of our constituents and their businesses. Our power-packed agenda includes globally renowned speaker Dave Evans, Jewel Burke Solomon, and Pastor Greg Mott from Houston First Baptist Church. We'll also feature our very own Ron Mitchell as our graduate speaker. So it'll be a morning you won't forget. So if you're interested, go to workfaithconnection.org and register today. Anthony, that's all I got. So I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I only had one minor correction in what you shared, and that was COVID-19, my first day on the job. You said my second week. It was actually my very first day.
That's right. Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Yeah, no, man, to your point, the team has been putting out fires, if you will, since my first day. I don't know any other way for us so far, right? And again, the team has done a magnificent job. So it's such an honor for me to be able to be a part of the great work that God is doing through our leadership here. You all, I have the awesome privilege of literally introducing my brother from another mother. This gentleman, man, Kem and I have known each other. Wow, I was a college student, you all, so he knows all my dirt. I was actually an intern at an institutional brokerage firm called Consulting Services Group. Is that right, Kem?
Yep.
With CSG, right? And so Kem was actually preparing to go get his MBA at Cornell University, and they were training me as his successor. And so I thought at that time that I was going to go into the finance business, and who knows where God could have taken me from there. So literally I was training alongside this gentleman, and I love, frankly, because of my background and story, unfortunately I didn't do a whole lot of research, believe it or not. So here I was working alongside this gentleman for, I guess, 6 to 9 months, had no idea of who he actually was and his heritage. And I share that because Kem is so humble. And when you all hear the story and just the lineage and the progeny that he comes from is absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, me being a knucklehead kid at the time, I didn't take the time to understand the privilege that I had to work alongside him for literally day in and day out for all of that time. And in hindsight, I should have done my research. But fortunately, by the grace of God, he and I reconnected, and truly, truly, he has become one of my best friends. He knows my dirt. I know his dirt too. So if he ever shares mine, I got some on him too. So, but man, I truly get to introduce him as a brother, as a friend, and man, Kem, what an honor to have you on this platform, man. So,
well, thank you, Anthony. It's a blessing to be here today with everyone. Blessing to be with you. Blessing to know you and to have shared life with you. Lots of it too. And I am, like I said, very blessed to have had you in my life for so long. And like you said, a brother from another mother for sure. So with that, I'll maybe start by giving you guys a little bit of a background on me and where I came from, or our family, and then I know, Anthony, you got some questions you want to ask me and stuff like that. But my grandfather, Kemmons Wilson, my namesake, go by Kem, but I'm the third. But Kemmons Sr. Was the patriarch of the business. He came from very humble beginnings. He was an only child. His father died when he was 9 months old. His mom never remarried. And they fought hard for every penny. He dropped out of high school because for him it was more important to eat than to get an education, much to her chagrin. But he did drop out of school. Don't worry though, my granddaddy did okay. I wouldn't be talking to you if he hadn't. He did okay, but he never really abandoned the lessons of his youth, and a lot of those things are very near and dear and important to us today. And I learned many of those lessons at a young age at my grandparents' table. We were a very close-knit family, and we'd always go over to my grandparents on Sunday nights. They had 5 kids, their in-laws and spouses, and their 14 third-generation cousins and siblings. And so we are incredibly close-knit family. And one Sunday, I love telling this story. One Sunday when I was about 10 years old, I was complaining to my mom about having to eat my butter beans. That's Southern for lima beans. I pointed at my granddad's plate and I said, and I asked her, why do I have to eat my beans if granddaddy didn't have any on his plate? It just didn't seem fair to me. And my grandfather overheard the conversation, and he looked at me and he said, boy, when I was your age, the only thing I could get enough of to fill me up were butter beans. I've had my life share of butter beans, eat your butter beans. And I was, yes, sir. And later, I was maybe about 14 years old. I asked my grandfather about that exchange, and he said, when I was your age, there were no grocery stores or open markets. There was just, and I took what little money I'd made from my paper route or what have you to go buy butter beans because they were the cheapest thing. And I'd stuff my face and feel full for momentarily full. And he said it was great because I was always hungry. So as you can see, it was more important for him to eat than to get an education. And butter beans are pretty empty calories, yet they did give him enough energy to work and fight hard. And eventually he founded the Holiday Inn hotel chain. So just an amazing kind of story, kind of that all-American story. We've evolved quite a bit since then. My dad and uncles took over the business. And worked with their father for a long time. I worked with my dad and uncles for a long time, and now I'm kind of in the leadership role along with my brother and 2 cousins. We have a heck of a team around us, leading day-to-day kind of operations here. We are kind of a conglomerate of sorts, and we have a number of different businesses that fall underneath the Kemmons Wilson Companies umbrella that are across a number of different industries. The primary one would still be hospitality, though. We own, manage, develop hotels and resorts, and but there are other businesses in addition to those that we help grow and build. And it's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible responsibility and an incredible blessing and privilege to be a part of the family and to do what we do. But for us, it's not just about making a dollar, and more importantly, it's about making a difference. A positive difference in the lives of the communities that we're in, the family members and the shareholders that we have and our employees. Being, as I said, in our positions, a tremendous responsibility that we don't take lightly, but it's an even greater blessing. So,
Kem, thank you for sharing that. Can you, because I know you well, I know a lot of backstory. Can you share just a snippet because it'll really speak to the origin of your family's business and to your point on, making a difference, right? So even the origination of the concept of Holiday Inn from your grandfather.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, why did he decide to start a hotel business?
Yeah, so he had 5 kids. They were between the ages of 10 and 2, and he had actually built a name for himself in Memphis as a real estate developer, home builder, and single family homes. And they decided to take a trip to Washington, D.C. from Memphis, and they got in the Oldsmobile, and it was, my grandmother and my grandfather, 5 kids, and his mom was still alive, so it was 8 of them. And traveling across the country, there was no standardization in the hotel motel industry. So you would have to get the innkeeper to come show them the room. Half the time it met their standards, half the time it didn't. But the frustrating thing for him with kids between the ages of 10 and 2, trying to corral them, they'd go check in and there was no restaurant. They'd have to load back up the car, but they were a very close-knit family. And so they would pile into the same room. And the boys, my dad and his 2 brothers had sleeping bags, and, that's just what they did. And he'd go to check out at night and the next day, and it'd be a $2 to $4 charge per or $4 to $6 charge per room back then, but it was a $2 surcharge per kid. And so he just was like, man, this is not fair, and he felt like other parents were probably feeling the same pain as he was. We're not using any more linens or toiletries than anyone else, so why am I having to pay a surcharge per kid? And so, but out of that frustration, fortunately for him, his glass was half full. He felt like that was an opportunity, and he used that opportunity to make a very bold prediction to my grandmother. He said, I'm going to build 400. I have no idea why he came up with the number 400. He said, I'm going to build 400 hotel motels. You're going to know what you get every time. There's going to be, standardization, and, kids are going to stay free. There's going to be a restaurant at every one, so these families don't have to load up the car again and all that kind of stuff. So the wheels were turning, and he opened up the first Holiday Inn a year later. That was in 1951. And in 1952, he opened up the first Holiday Inn. And, for him, he actually ran out of money. He borrowed from the banks and built 4 in Memphis, and couldn't get any more leverage, and realized he needed to think outside the box. And so he ended up creating one of the first franchise systems in the U.S. And it just so happened at that same time, the U.S. government put in the interstate system. So people were getting their cars and traveling a lot more. So these, by the highway hotel motels made a lot of sense. And it just started to take off. And his autobiography was actually called Half Luck, Half Brains. And it does epitomize the Holiday Inn story. Half luck in the sense that, the government puts in the interstate system. He didn't have the vision for that per se, but that allowed the business to grow. He did have the brains of having the vision of there needed to be standardization in the industry and whatnot. And so it took a little bit of both. And I think that is true today. You got to have people who have a vision and who are smart and passionate about what they're doing, but you also have to have some of the chips fall in the right place. And if they don't, it's hard to find success. So it keeps you humble too.
Oh man. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. Right. Because, so what I heard, right, is that one, in many ways, his back was up against the wall. And yet, because there was purpose behind his intention, purpose to essentially to be redemptive. You and I talked about just this concept of being redemptive. There are exploitative businesses, there are even ethical businesses, but we talked about, redemptive businesses that are trying to redeem culture, and your grandfather had Christ at the center of who he was, and he was looking for creative ways to really make an impact on the marketplace, but empowering families in the process. And so that goes back 3 generations for you. So talk a little bit about, faith and your family values. And, you mentioned, for example, eating dinner around the table. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think growing up in the family that I did, and faith was such an important aspect of just our everyday living. But I think the important thing with my grandfather was, he treated everybody equally with dignity and respect. And, I've personally learned that lesson in some of the things that I've done personally. I worked with mentally and physically handicapped adults for a couple of years of my life, and it was a really difficult job, but an incredibly rewarding job, and one which my job was to teach them everyday living skills and to, and help them be independent. But what it also taught me was, to treat everyone with dignity and respect. And it reinforced that for me, for sure. And, I think God, I was raised to really believe that. That was an experience I had that allowed me to see it firsthand. But my grandfather too. I mean, I saw it his whole life. He met kings, queens, presidents. He treated every single person with dignity and respect. It didn't matter who you were. And, growing up in a family like that, you just see it. I think for us, a lot of that came to a head when we really transitioned to the third generation. We felt like it was important to start to notate a lot of those things, to put them down on paper, to really dig into our guts and figure out kind of how is it that we want to act? How is it that we want to work? What are our core values and our core operating principles? We knew it all along, but it was like, hey, let's get this down because we don't want the next generation to any of this to be lost. And so I think as it relates to faith, not only personally, but with regard to the family and how we run the business, it's in part, it's practice, not preach. It's being quiet about it. It's allowing your core values to drive how you act and your core principles to drive how you work. But those things are incredibly important to us. And, I'll mention our core values really quickly. It's humility, it's integrity, it's respect, it's excellence, it's service, and it's stewardship. And, how does that reflected in the way that things actually work? We need to address and look at our core values when we're looking at a deal or thinking about employees or thinking about, just all the ways, all the things that we do, how we act as businessmen, as stewards of what we've been given. Those things play a role in that, and it's incredibly important. It keeps your compass headed the right direction. And whenever you are challenged with, here's what others are doing to cut corners and get ahead, you go back to your core values. And you're like, no, we're going to do this, because it's not just about making a dollar. Like I said, that's incredibly important for us to continue to do the great things that we're doing and to give back and to be good stewards. But it's not just about that. It's about making a difference. And for us, being able to focus on those things when we need to, when we're challenged with certain decisions, becomes incredibly important. And I think that those core values reflect a lot of Christ-like characteristics, certainly. And I would tell you too, I mean, it's not that we're not challenged with that too, right? We have people from all walks of life, right? And it's important to treat everyone equally everyone's worthy of dignity and respect and worthy of being treated as such. But so it doesn't matter what your race, your color, your creed, your ethnicity, your height, your weight, your sexual orientation is. And we have them all, trust me, with thousands of employees that we have. So to do that is not always easy, but I think it's when you have core values and something that you can look to really guide your decisions, that you can do it. You practice, it's practicing it, not necessarily preaching it all the time, which is, it's a fine balance. It's one that, we don't take lightly and do think about.
Well, I mean, speaking of practicing it, talk a little bit about, and you mentioned it's not just about making a dollar. Of course, hey, we want to profit, but it's about making a difference. You all actually essentially defer some of your profits on the one hand by empowering your employees to take extra time off throughout the course of each fiscal or calendar year in order to do community service. And, you all had a major project, among many projects that you worked on. Talk a little bit about some of that, Kem, so people can see practically.
Yeah, this is a great example of kind of putting it into practice. So one of the things that we did when we transitioned the business, the to third generation being in leadership, that's me and my brother and two cousins, was really thinking about community service and how do we put our money where our mouth is. And so a couple of things that came out of that, we decided to give a certain percentage of our operating profits back to the community that we work in. And not only that, we formed a very intentional community service program. And there's kind of a couple elements of that. One is we allow each one of our, again, one of our core values is stewardship and giving back to the community, and so being good servant leaders, right? So we have this community service program where we allow each one of our employees, essentially, they get a week of paid volunteer hours, and that's us putting our money where our mouth is. So if my assistant, reaches out to me today and says, hey, can I go work for Habitat tomorrow from 8 to noon? As long as I approve it, she's getting paid by us. That's not time off for her. And so for us, a lot of public companies would look at that and be like, that's a lot of lost productivity and, money at paying, but for us, it's very important for us to put our money where our mouth is. And we believe in stewardship and giving back, and we believe that we have a big responsibility. So that's part of our community service program, is giving our employees those volunteer hours. But in addition to that, we created a partners and community board committee here that basically, it's no family members on it because we didn't want to have any feeling if there's a conflict of interest. But it's that committee that gets to decide where our operating profits go, a portion of them to those nonprofits. They're the ones that are interviewing the nonprofits and making those decisions. And in addition to that, we have these lunch and learns. We'll bring up these nonprofits in Memphis, let's say, and we'll provide lunch, and the executive director will come and pitch these businesses, which allow our employees not only to have a sense of what's out there and where they can go volunteer and use those volunteer hours and where they can find a passion maybe, but also allows that partners and community group to decide and learn a little bit more so that they can determine where they want to direct some of our operating profits. We have matching programs and stuff like that. So there are a lot of ways from a community service standpoint that we really try to put our money where our mouth is. The other thing, Anthony, you mentioned was Crosstown Concourse. It's a development that was done here in Memphis. It's a 1.5 million square foot building that was built as a Sears store and distribution center beginning back in the 1920s. It's bigger than the Chrysler building in New York City, so to give you a sense of that. And it sat empty in Memphis for 20 years. It was blighted, an eyesore. The neighborhood around it suffered after its closure. And no one ever thought it was possible to make it useful, and because rehabilitating or renovating that monstrosity really would be impossible. It was daunting, complex, and not to mention expensive. But then a few creative minds came together, and philanthropic minds who loved this city, and they started brainstorming, and a plan got put in place. And for that plan to really work, we needed someone with our expertise and credibility and vision. And the project was led by my brother, McLean, and from our company, and another visionary, a guy named Todd Richardson. And then what no one thought possible happened. And part of that was because we didn't take no for an answer. They didn't. And they worked tirelessly to make it happen. It was a collaborative effort. It included 30 different sources of financing. It was an over $200 million project, from county, state, federal, private, philanthropic dollars. I mean, it was really a community effort. But and today it's a mixed use vertical urban village. It's really a neighborhood within a building, and with apartments, restaurants, medical clinics, galleries, grocery, office. There's a high school, a theater, a brewery. There's 3,000 people that go through that every day, and the economic impact has been tremendous. Thousands of jobs, millions in wages. It's regentrified that area of Memphis, and will continue to. It's a certified LEED Platinum. That's basically adaptive reuse project is what it was. But the certification is just, it's a green building from the design, construction, and operation standpoint. The city, for the city incentive, for tax abatements and stuff, they asked that we give best efforts to have 25% of the project performed by MWBEs. And, we actually exceeded that, and it was over 30%. And, we were the project manager. My brother played point, and we got paid. But trust me, it was nowhere close to the highest and best use of our resources. But that's not why we did it. We're incredibly proud of the asset, incredibly proud of what it's done for our city and community. And that, again, goes back to, it's not just about making a dollar, but making a difference. And
Kem, I want to make sure everybody heard that 1.5 million square feet. I've been in that facility. I used to go in there as a kid, oddly enough. When my mom, had me as she was a teenage mom, and I remember being a small kid going into that facility. And so to see what it is now is remarkable, because I've actually been inside. I actually had to speak there, oddly enough, a couple of years back, and it's remarkable. And again, I know that you all did not get, market rate, if you will, for the amount of time you put into it. You all definitely could have invested your time, elsewhere.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And I'm, incredibly proud of, my brother. He kind of led the march on that for us. And it's just, it's been great. And, again, as Anthony said, I mean, if you went to it before and after, you would just be completely shocked.
Yes. Yes.
And I can't believe, nobody thought it could happen, but it did.
Yeah, and again, Kem, I wanted you to emphasize that, because, again, we're talking about redemptive. Like everybody on here, the message we want to convey is that we get up every day. Work is a privilege,
right?
So we don't have to work. We get to work. It's a privilege to work.
Exactly.
And we're looking for opportunities to redeem culture through our work, and redeem culture through innovation and through our efforts. Like you said, nobody thought it would work. So it took an application of faith. It wasn't just competency that you all had to apply. You literally had to apply your faith for less than, you all's premium rates, right? In order to pull this project off. So God was truly at the center of that project. And it's redeemed the community. I mean, it's gang infested, crime infested all the way around there. And you all have been able to help redeem that community and put people back to work in that community. That's WorkFaith, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And that'll continue. And it's just, it really was what if we could, and nobody was like, there's no way. Like, and it's just kind of like, no, you got to have that mindset of, we can do it, and not to take no for an answer, and have that perspective and attitude, because of the what if we do this, look at all the incredible things that will happen to our community, and to, the people in this community, and the jobs created, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so,
Kem, talk a little bit about, I mean, also, you have, you've walked the streets of the hood, brother, so talk a little bit about, we have another great friend and Tony, and you've worked with a ministry called Repairing the Breach. Of course, you were serving on a board of an organization that I started many years ago, the Gifted Foundation. So you've actually decided in your personal spare time to also contribute to serving kids who come from backgrounds like my own, kids from low income communities, inner city at Memphis, of course, inner cities across the country through Gifted. So talk a little bit about you driving, getting in your vehicle, driving over by Hamilton High School to pick kids up,
Yeah. I think that for me, I've grown up incredibly privileged. That's not lost on me. And, I get a lot of joy out of, serving. And I think it's incredibly important. And one of our core operating principles is balanced. And, you strive to live a balanced life between, that's between your home and your community and work. And it's important to try to find that balance. And for me, it's trying to find those nonprofits that I have a passion for and want to give back to. And, that I feel like, probably all of you have heard of, your time, your treasures and your talents. But for me, I had always taken the approach of I really want to get engaged and involved. And so I've been involved with a number of nonprofits. The one that Anthony just mentioned is called Repairing the Breach. It's a Christian nonprofit kind of outreach and discipleship ministry endeavoring to reach at-risk youth for Christ in Memphis. And, 20 years ago, God called Tony and Felicia Wade to the youth ministry in that area, and RTB was born, and their passion and dedication and obedience to his calling is truly amazing. And they got me on board. And it wasn't just being a board member for me, though. I think importantly, I love people who give their treasures, and I love people who give their time and their talents too. But for me, I wanted to try to do all of that. And so when I got involved with these kids in this at-risk area, that were really hurting, I started to mentor a number of them, and I have over the years, and that's been a huge blessing to me. I feel like I've gotten a lot more out of it than they have, but it's digging in, it's getting to know these kids who are hurting, and it's earning their trust, and it's earning their respect, and it's earning the right to tell them certain things, and to guide them, and to lead them. And what a privilege that is, and what a privilege it is for me to be able to learn from them, and to be able to be given that perspective that I think is incredibly important in life, to have that perspective. And, especially we all should be challenged to get out and do such things, so that we do have a perspective, and we are empathetic of our fellow man and citizens out there. It's been a blessing to be involved with that. And I think it's important to kind of find that balance. And so I try to balance the best I can my time with doing a few things like that.
Yeah, I mean, for all of our Houstonians, it's the equivalent of the sunny side area, in Houston. I mean, Kem is, he could be, their family is in great demand, not just in that city that he resides in, but of course, literally globally. And he chooses to spend his spare time driving into a community that most people would say, dude, you're nuts, because there's gangs on the corners, there's gunfire every day of the week, and yet, he feels that call on his heart to go out and serve. And, Kem, I just appreciate your humility, your family, like you all, I could tell you, Kem has walked literally among giants. I mean, literally, close to presidents of the United States, kings and queens, princes, Kem, I'll share this. I remember when, was it Prince Harry? I won't get into details, but I remember seeing this big media release on the prince coming into the country, and they were going to Kem's to meet with Kem's family, in Memphis, and so he has been among giants, and yet their family carries such a mantle of humility, man. It's remarkable. And like I said, he could be doing a whole bunch of things with his time, but he's driving into the Sunnyside community, right? He's driving into South Memphis to actually spend time with kids who come from backgrounds like mine. And so it's no coincidence, brother, that God brought us together, and that we've done life together, and that we continue to do life together. And again, as I said, if any of you all want to know my true junk, you can call Kem, and he can give you the lowdown. So, we're gonna go ahead, Kem.
I have to tell one more quick story. Just you saying all that reminded me of something that's.
I'm not getting myself in trouble.
No, it's not you. I do think that it's incredibly important to teach our kids, and to actions speak louder than words, right? And I was very privileged and very lucky to grow up in the family that I did, practice what they preach. And one of the example that came to my mind, my grandfather, again, met all types of people. We, as a family, we were always amazed because my grandfather would come up with these just incredible toasts, or, you know, at an event that we would have, he'd do this incredible toast. And we're like, how does he come up with this stuff? I mean, it was just beautifully written. Anyhow, it was incredible. And it was kind of a mystery. We're like, his Dottie was his executive assistant. Is Dottie writing this stuff for him? Like, where is he coming up with this stuff? It was all personalized. And anyway, long story short, after he passed away, a ton of people came to Memphis, and his 5 kids were all kind of lined up when people were coming to the visitation, and there was long lines. And I was kind of standing up there with my dad, my parents, to say hello to the folks that were standing in their line to kind of pay their respects. And I would kind of go back in the line and talk to a few people here and there. And I remember looking in the line, and, you know, most of the people in line were talking to each other. They were friendly, they knew each other, or were introducing. And there's this one guy, super awkward looking, older gentleman. He had, you know, he had like a purple suit on, and just looked like a very creative type. But anyway, I befriended him and went up to him and was like, hey, how did you know my grandfather? And he goes, well, your grandfather would come eat at your hotel here in Memphis every day for lunch, and I would be up there, and he befriended me, and we created a relationship over the years. And he goes, I loved your grandfather. He treated me just, you know, wonderfully. And, you know, and I go, really? I go, so what would y'all talk about? He's like, well, we talk a lot about the family. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you know, I became his poet laureate. I was like, you did what? He said, yeah. And he said, you know, I would write all of his toasts and stuff like that. I was like, oh my goodness, I've figured it out. And it was that man. But, you know, the point being that, you know, my grandfather just saw this man who looked out of place, and he didn't care. He wanted to go sit and chat with the man and make him feel special and learn what his talents were, and then put them to use. And he did, and he made an impact on them. And so you never know who you could be making an impact on with how you act. And so I fortunately got blessed with being able to see that from a very young age, and very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to open up for audience Q&A. If you all would just in the chat box, feel free to just type questions that you may have, if you don't mind, and we'll allow for 3 or 4 questions if we have time, maybe a few more from the audience here. So anybody have any questions or any thoughts? There was one question, Kim, on whether or not the Sears Crosstown Tower had been showcased anywhere.
Yeah. Anthony, I can send you they did a great video when it opened, the grand opening, that I can send to you if you want to send around to the group later. But yeah, there has been some publicity. It has received incredible awards, worldwide awards, in terms of that project. It has been incredibly well recognized, and a ton of accolades, and is being used as an example for a number of other adaptive reuses, and which is great, because so we set the tone, set the example that hopefully others can follow to continue to do good in similar projects.
Yeah. Any other? Let's see. I got another question. What has been? Oh, let's see here. Has your family been approached to restore? Oh, has your family been approached to restore the Houston Astrodome? Houston refuses to tear it down.
They called that the 8th wonder of the world, didn't they, at some point?
Yeah. So I'm so interested to hear about y'all's perspective, varying perspective on generational wealth versus having inroads, if you will. So I guess Isabel, I'm guessing like a comparative analysis of.
Well, I'll try to answer that the best I can. You know, I mean, listen, working for a family business in 3rd generation, and there's a lot of us, and then going into 4th, it's incredibly challenging to transition in a way that where you can transition those core values, those core operating principles, where you mitigate conflict and foster continuity, because you got family dynamics involved. And I think what we try to do is we've done a lot of work around having certain policies and procedures in place to ensure that everyone knows the rules of the game, and to ensure that that we mitigate conflict and foster continuity, because it's incredibly important for us. I think all of us would tell you, and I say family member, all of us as in family members would tell you, like, we get a lot of pride and joy out of the intangible benefits that come to our employees and the communities that we work in, and we got to continue to do that. And to do that, you have to have a lot of policies and procedures in place. And for us, I mean, that's it's outlining a lot of things, like to work in this organization as a family member. It's a merit-based job. It is not easy. So if my kids want to work in this business, they're gonna have to work their tails off, and they know that, though. And they have to work away. They can't come to work for the business right away. We'll have internships and stuff like that. They're in college and in high school, but outside of that, they've got to get, they got to learn somewhere else. They got to go to graduate school, and then they got to work within the business to work their way up. I mean, it is not just handed to you on a silver platter. And so that sense of entitlement that a lot of families can have, and we try to get rid of that. We have these kids that starting at age 12 or the next generation are doing things in the city and community service things, and they're getting together. They're reading my grandfather's autobiography. It's very important for us to instill those values and for them to understand those and know those. And so it's a lot of work. I would tell you that it's incredibly important to find those intentional times to get together to do things that are, that are important in terms of building family values, and in order for us, honestly, to be able to assess the next generation, to determine who is the next leader, who is the next rock star. And you know what? It's okay if you want to be a teacher or a psychologist, or what have you. Nobody's being forced to do anything by any means. It's a lot of work, but we're being thoughtful about it and intentional. And I would tell you that that's what you have to do if you want to, for a family business, to make sure it's successful long term. You can't think next year. You got to think 30 years.
Yeah.
What are the things we need to put in place to make sure it's successful 30 years from now?
And I think that's what I think her question was, more or less like with you and us, with you and I, as our friendship and brotherhood has developed, it's like, how have our varying perspectives in a very positive sense collided, so, just maybe, I'd like to say, like, oddly, what you just shared, like, I've learned so much just from watching you and watching your family. And it's like, I didn't have any foundation to build from, if you will. And so I've learned so much from you guys just about, generational wealth and setting up systems and processes and things like that. And so it's been such an education for me just to be around you, because things that are common language to you are literally foreign to me. And so I've been blessed to have 20 years to just literally be in your presence, man, and just hear you talk. And I'm picking up nuggets, like a little kid. I'm just sapping it all up. And so I think that was more or less her question, like, hey, how did our varying perspectives? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And you have to be open to all perspectives, and you have to be,
absolutely.
Validate, be empathetic, seek to understand, respect differences, acknowledge talents, know your limitations. My grandfather always said, hire people smarter than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also just, be open-minded about all those things. Yeah, for sure.
Well, by the way,
I've learned a lot from you too, by all means.
Yeah. Well, I put the Vimeo link in the chat box for everyone for the Sears Crosstown tower. So if you all can take a look at that. The next question, and Kem, we may have to go rapid fire because now the questions are coming in like crazy. So real quick, what's been the most difficult challenge working so close to family members?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say, you know, early on, it's just kind of finding your way and learning how to work collaboratively where, you know, you're going to have differences in opinion at times, but you learn to kind of work together to step away when you need to. I think the family values and the family ties allowed us to kind of be able to kind of have really heated conversations, step away, but also walk out of the office and put our arms around each other and tell each other that we love each other. And so having that balance between family and friendship and business, it's not easy all the time, but you know, we do the best we can. And a big part of that is just, you know, being able to communicate appropriately, you know. And I think at the end of the day, as with any relationship, you know, love, acceptance, and forgiveness is so important in anything you do. So
another quick question. What actions have you taken to encourage the kids to treat people with respect? Obviously given, you know, all that God has blessed the family with.
I think that we do a lot of thinking around that. That's why, like, at 12, they start getting involved with reading the book, doing community service stuff. It allows them to have a perspective, right? I think that the onus is on the parents to make sure that they're exposed to what the real world is like. And, you know, it's easy to kind of stay within your communities and do those things that, you know, those in your your kind of walk of life do. It's important to kind of give them a perspective of kind of what life is like, not just in your town, but in the country and in the world. And so, you know, just trying to expose them as much as you can to that stuff and make sure that you are creating well-rounded kids. But, you know, it's a challenge, you know, and I would say the biggest challenge for me on that is just what other parents are doing, you know, and it's a battle. It's like, well, so-and-so got the new iPhone 10. I want one. It's like, nope, that 7 works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You know, and those are, you know, and then, you know, doing things like taking them and delivering meals in the communities and stuff like that. It does get, you know, it sinks in. Kids absorb so much more than we give them credit for. So, but they won't if you don't expose them to it.
Absolutely. Let's see. Are there intentional habits that you've developed to keep yourself grounded despite your success?
You know, I mean, I think that quiet time is really important. I think finding people, and it's a very select number of folks who you love dearly and can really develop deep relationships with, like I have with you, Anthony, that can challenge you. I think is incredibly important because we all have blind spots, and so, you know, self-awareness is incredibly important. And so I think when you have time to quiet time and reflect, and, you know, I'll journal some and stuff like that, I think it does bring to light certain things. You're praying, you know, certainly brings things to light. It's like, okay, God's definitely talking to me about a weakness I have that I need to address, you know, but I think a lot of people don't like to look themselves in the mirror and see all the warts, but it's important to do that.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I could speak to, you know, one of the things I have admired about you is, you know, and our team knows me, I'm fairly transparent. Well, you're just as transparent. So you and I have very honest conversations, and we share our pains, our adversities, et cetera, together. And that, you know, that's a great sign of humility, in my opinion, considering your story and background, right? And so I value that in you and our friendship. That's one of the reasons we've connected so well, is because we have that common trait of, hey man, here's my junk. Like, talk to me, like give me some insight, you know, and we share that very commonly. So that's definitely one of those things that I
find those people who don't coddle you but who really challenge you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we've had we challenge each other for sure.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, here's another one. Let's see. Shoot. Hotels come and go, but what has been some of the key ingredients to the long term? Well, and some may not know that your grandfather took the company public, and then eventually the company sold Holiday Inn. Yeah. So for those who have questions around that, Kem and them, they still own properties, but you're mostly on the management, asset management side now, not as much on the.
Yeah. Most of those, a lot of those big companies went to a capital light way where they just get fees from franchisors and from franchisees. And so we own, develop, and manage hotels, and we'll pay Holiday Inn or IHG or Hilton or Marriott a fee to waive their brand. Businesses do come and go. I mean, I think that for us, it's just, we're always taking more, we take kind of a buy, build, and sell approach with a lot of them, and hotels too, as it relates to that. It's being smart and wise about how we're continuing to grow our capital and our wealth so that we can continue to do the great things that we want to do. It's not always easy. We learn a lot through challenging times like COVID and the Great Recession and 9/11. All those time periods have been learning environments for us, and we're learning a lot now. We'll come out stronger, and looking forward to taking the business into the next generation.
Okay, everyone, we're 2 minutes out from shutoff time, and I want to be respectful and mindful of time. So please, I have one final question for Kem, but if anybody who needs to sign off, please sign off. I'll ask him one last question, and then what we'll do is we'll pray and close us out. But again, I'm always mindful and respectful of time, so please don't hesitate to sign off at 10 o'clock here. So Kem, my last question, many people may not know, you all still own the world's largest timeshare resort, right? And so COVID-19, and it's in Orlando, right around the corner from Disney World. Literally thousands and thousands of people come through on an annual basis. You all have done such a great job of weathering the storm of COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about just, your perspective on, not even necessarily about the business, you can if you want to, but just your perspective on weathering the storm, to give our audience some just points of encouragement as we close out our session together.
Yeah. Well, I would just tell you, it's incredibly challenging in times like this. We really take to heart the difficult decisions that have to be made with regard, especially to our employees. We are a people first organization. Our employees are our greatest asset, and so with that business, it's the largest single site timeshare resort in the world. It's under the brand Holiday Inn Club Vacations, which we own and develop and manage all those. IHG gets a fee share for that, but we have 30 resorts, but one of which is in Orlando. But it's been challenging, but it's been fruitful too, because you go through periods of time like this, and it forces you to really think about your business and what you're doing, and think about the people who are in those businesses. You do find efficiencies through time periods like this. We found it through the Great Recession. We'll find it now. So we'll come out even stronger with better margins. And so I think having the right perspective is the right thing to do. Being patient and doing the right thing. We've had to lay off a lot of people. We wouldn't have a business to fall back on if we didn't make those tough decisions. I would tell you, for me and for a lot of us personally, those are really difficult decisions. I have an incredible responsibility to our shareholders and stakeholders. And sometimes it means making really tough decisions. But you always want to make those decisions with the proper perspective and with respect. And so, for us, it's, we're doing all that we can to be patient and to think about our employees and what's the best thing to do for them, but also to continue to build that business and grow it and to do it in a smart and wise way. I think that some of the lessons that we have learned historically is, leverage can really kill. And so we've always had a pretty conservative balance sheet, thank goodness. So it allows us to weather things like this. Leverage can certainly boost your returns, but it can also crush you in times like this, especially when things that, nobody thought could happen. There were no models for this by any means. So we'll come out stronger and better. And I would tell you, we just try to be incredibly thoughtful about the things that we do and the decisions that we make. And again, looking to our core values allows us to do that. Whenever we have a question, it's like, all right, well, let's look at our core values and what would they dictate? What would it tell us to do? How would it tell us to act? And what decision should we make based on those?
Well, man, thank you so much for your time again. I've seen you time and time again make decisions out of character, out of integrity, on behalf of the people around you, on behalf of the communities. I've seen you serve around, et cetera. So again, man, I'm grateful and humbled to call you my brother, my friend. It's been a privilege to have you here. And obviously I look forward to our hunt later this year.
Looking forward to that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you all, the last thing I want to say is, and I'm going to pray us out of here. We have an event coming up on September 30th. Hopefully you all can join us, the By Faith Experience. Please go onto our website and register. We have an incredible lineup for you. And so because of time, I won't get into the details there, but please, by all means, go to our website, read up on our guests, read up on our speakers. And again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you again next month. Kim, we have another Memphian next month, Chris Winton, out of Memphis, actually just moved to Pittsburgh to become Senior Vice President of FedEx Ground, about a $30 billion conglomerate for FedEx. Chris is hiring 7,000 employees a week, and we're going to talk a little bit about how faith, is being bridged into the work he's doing every day at FedEx. And of course, he hires specifically our demographic of people, many of those we serve coming out of prison, those who are overcoming addiction, et cetera. So we're going to talk a lot about that during our next session. But let's pray, you all, and we're out of here. Father, we thank you for this incredible audience. Again, thank you for their patience, for allowing us to go over just a few moments. We're honored to have Kem share his story, his family story. And God, what a gift and a privilege to have people like this in our world who are leading at the highest levels, making such an impact on the marketplace, making such an impact on the lives of those that come to work on a daily basis. Again, we don't have to work, we get to work. And it's a privilege for the WorkFaith Connection to be a leader and to really be, to pronounce that message, not just in Houston, but as we continue to grow and scale across the United States of America. So Father, send each of us away from this place, but never from your presence. And it's in the mighty and matchless name of our awesome Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that we humbly pray. Hallelujah and amen. God bless you all. Have an amazing day and an amazing week. We'll see you again soon. God bless.